those in.
So first order of business is Linden Drive.
What did you say?
I didn't get that.
Yes, it's on the agenda. 174 Linden Drive, grinder pump responsibility question.
So that's
okay. So before we go, the next meeting date?
October 11th.
9 a.m.
That work?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to promote Mr. Norton. We're going dark. Usually every 2 weeks. Yeah.
Hello? Hello, can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is John Naughton. I'm at 174 Linden Drive. And I don't know if this is the appropriate body to speak to about this, but I just had my grinder pump replaced and it was a $5,000 expense. Needless to say, unscheduled or anticipated. And when I spoke to the tech, he said that these were 10-year pumps, and like an alarm clock, this thing went off at 10 years and 2 months. So up here on Linden Drive, there's about 65 houses or 65 or 70 houses here. So, you know, that if the planned obsolescence goes as it did with my house, there's going to be a $300,000 expense in this neighborhood. So I'm wondering, can we, prior to this, it was my understanding that we all had a betterment fee that we paid, which is essentially amortizing the cost of the pump. So I'm wondering, can we either continue that or somehow come up with some sort of a plan so that everybody doesn't have to get an unexpected $5,000 expense? And not only that, but the unexpectancy of it as we approach wintertime, you know, you could be without a sewer for who knows how many days before they can come and replace it. So I don't know, does the board have the authority to make a suggestion for the town to continue with the betterment, or how we can resolve this so that everybody's not taking this significant hit?
I can't speak for the town on how they address betterments. I don't know that you can add to an existing betterment if the betterments are still in place, but the grinder pumps, about a year and a half or 2 years ago when I first came on, were no longer the responsibility of the sewer commission or the sewer department. They all became the sole responsibility of the homeowners.
I mean, I get that, but I don't know how that got approved or that decision was made without input from the people that are about to take on the significant expense.
I'm not sure that 174 Linden Drive was part of that, you know, that era of pumps that basically all were sending fluid to Hull for processing. But I think this is, believe it or not, I've been on the board for 10 or 12 or 14 years or so. And it's the first time that anybody has come up with an idea of what can be done, or a question about what can be done when the pumps do fail in a significant quantity at a close same time frame. Because your idea of $300,000 is probably right on, and the idea that if in fact they are going to decrease quickly at the 10-year mark, what is it that can be done to either, there's a couple of different things. One is get a contract with the pump company to have it so that residents can purchase the pumps at a lower cost, number one. Have a place where if you know what it is about the pump that failed, maybe have an inspection of that item. You know, is it, you know, when the pump fails, that doesn't necessarily mean that the whole pump failed and is of no use anymore. It might be that just the solenoid or just the motor itself or just some other part of it has failed. So, you know, I think it's for the board to you know, look at the repair record. We do get reports 2 months or so on grinder pumps that have failed that were replaced. And the number is very, very low. You know, most of the time it's just a fault of the user, and the person goes down and they have to clean out the rags that somehow got in that clogged the pump up and prevented it from working. So that's my comments on that.
I spoke with the tech when he came out, and obviously I said, well, can I get a rebuilt one, or can't you replace the parts? I said exactly like you said about it could be a solenoid or just a minor component. And he said that there were no available parts available. They can't even rebuild pumps that they've taken back because there's no availability of parts. And then he said that even if you did do that, you're throwing good money after bad, because the life of the pump was designed for 10 years. That if you put that in, then you're going to be putting something else in that overall, you know, between the mechanics of it and the mechanisms involved, that at the end of 10 years, it's not worth doing any kind of repair work on it. And that was the guy from the company. So I don't know.
The guy from the pump company, or
Yes.
Dave?
No, from, I forget the name of the company that.
Rockland. Interesting, but we've had, like I said, we had so few failures, and most of the pumps are more than 15 years old. So it's you know, 400.
They were all put in at the same time though, weren't they?
I'm not sure if Linden Drive itself was part of the Little Harbor project or whether it was part of the North Cohasset project. And maybe Dan Coughlin. Dan, can you tell me?
Yeah, he has one of the, or he had one of the original installations with the North Cohasset system, but he's also been upgraded with the E1 pumps, and the E1 pumps were done through conversions over a period of time, and that's where the betterment or the additional fee that was charged in the system was applied to, is basically a conversion for everyone to get an E1 pump, which is a more reliable pump. And I'm assuming those conversions probably happened over basically a 3-year period. So all the pumps are going to be pretty much in the same age bracket. Now, a normal pump might last 7 or 8 years. The E1s tend to last a little bit longer. But it could be 10 years, it could be 11 years, it could be 15 years. He is right though, relative to parts, like any pump system in the US today, it's difficult to get parts, it's difficult to get pumps. It's getting a little bit better, but it's still a long process because of supply problem.
So how did the original plan for that betterment of that pump replacement come into place?
The original betterment was based upon the construction of the system, which was the pipes in the street, the service connections, and the initial pumping unit. So that was the betterment. So you paid 50% of that, and the town paid another 50% on your behalf for that system. And then for the most part, all you were paying were users fees for a period of time. And then the board wanted to convert them all to E1s. And then there was a quarterly fee that was charged. And that quarterly fee was supposed to collect enough money to do the conversions. But at the end of that conversion process, you know, the pumps were going to be turned over to the homeowners, because it was, you know, ultimately their responsibility. The town was able to get attractive financing to keep the costs down for the homeowners initially by doing the construction themselves. But at the time the betterments were theoretically paid off, at that point in time, the system was turned back over to the homeowners. And if you think of it, you spent $3,500 roughly for a 10-year pump. I mean, that only really works out to $30 a quarter, roughly. So, you know, which
I'm happy to pay $50 a quarter. It was the 5,000 one day,
yeah,
unexpectedly. That was the problem.
So we've we've had a policy that we've had in place for a couple of years now, and we're not in the position to finance homeowners as they go out and buy new pumps. It's not the position of the town, nor the sewer commission at this juncture.
I understand that, and I agree with that. The only thing is, this was never a voluntary thing by the homeowners. This was something that was happening that the homeowners got saddled with, and it was a betterment over time, which I'm fine with that. And I'm fine. My suggestion would be that, you know, if 10 years is the useful life, and if planned obsolescence is that exact, it could be that this neighborhood in this 1 year period could be undergoing a $300,000 expenditure, which largely I'm wondering, is there a way that we could go back to the town and say, can we continue the betterment system, maybe in perpetuity, just because this is always going to be an ongoing problem. It's always going to be a 10-year envelope of pump failure, give or take. So
Yeah,
rather than making,
you're asking the town to finance pumps,
which is essentially what they did originally.
right? That's for the original install and sewer hookup. That's all part of the hooking up to sewer. And once that's completed, the town has no further obligation for repair and replacement. I
don't think anybody at the time knew that.
Yeah.
When the town did that, they said, well, there you go for 10 years. And then after that, you're on your own. You know, so I just think that's five grand per house is a lot. And I don't see if everybody in this neighborhood is shouldering the betterment, I don't see the problem with that. And if it's not costing the town any additional money, I don't see the problem with that. Just divide it, amortize it, whatever the interest rate is, add it on, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a betterment system can't be used like that. I mean, a fee system could be structured like that, but I mean, the whole purpose of the transition was for the town to get out of the pump business, essentially.
I mean, I liked having my septic system. It was reliable. It didn't suffer power outages. I never had a problem with it. You know, we were somewhat forced into it. So anyway, listen, my point about it is that I'm trying to get, is there some alternatives that we can explore so that everybody doesn't have to pay this one lump sum number without any warning or notice?
I would suggest you speak with the town manager to find out what the best path for your request would be.
I think you have a lot of merit in what you're saying, and it's just a case of some things we cannot do. We've tried very unsuccessfully of trying to have it so that people could, if you were to get a permit today, it's $37,500 if you were building a new house for a sewer connection. And when the connections were put in around the rest of the houses there, it wasn't that price. And in fact, you could put it on a 20-year payment schedule. That $37,500 today, you can't put on it. You can't finance it for 30 years or 20 years through the town. Even though the town doesn't have the outlay of money that they have to pay off. We just have to try to, and I think through the town manager, see whether or not there can be a revolving fund set up or something else.
I just think with your cooperation and potentially endorsement with the town manager, we might get a little more headway than just, it's either that or me on my own. I know that's not going to go anywhere. For me to coordinate the neighborhood, that's another issue, but that's a lot of work. The guy building the house to take on that $37,000 expense, that's a budgeted expense that he's making a decision on whether or not he wants to do it. $5 grand out of the clear blue is not a voluntary decision that anybody's budgeting. Or if 10 years ago when they did put in the pump, they said, listen, this thing's only good for 10 years, allocate $5 grand 10 years from now and you'll be okay. We were never told that. and it was a surprise, to say the least.
And we never would say that, because the only thing we can say is it's warranted for 10 years. And frankly, we have not had that many. And I'll have Lisa or something and Carol do a little research and see how many failures we had this year, for instance, and forced replacements. And I bet it's less than 10. And so
this could
30,
be the starting line, though.
excuse me?
This could be the starting line.
Yeah.
I don't know. The tech told me it was a 10. These things have a 10-year useful life.
That's what he said. I don't, don't forget, they're the seller of the pumps. So they don't want to necessarily bring it back and fix it or do anything else. They don't want to, their thing is, I'm going to sell you another one. I'm going to tell you it's going to last another 10 years. And by the way, the town did negotiate with the pump manufacturer to have a 10-year warranty. Originally, they were set up only for 5 years. And we said, we're not going to use the pumps unless we can get a 10-year warranty. And so that's why it's that long. So the person that ends up having it 8 years and having it fail has to either get a replacement or have it fixed by the company. Okay. You can, you can talk to some of your neighbors, you can do something, but, you can schedule a meeting with the town manager. Someone from the sewer board could attend the meeting. We're not, we are citizens just like you are, and we have the same issues if something fails with a pump that we might have. And if there's a way that more people in town think that this is, we should have a, it's sort of like another warranty period. A lot of times that
Right.
put into a fund and
Right. No, I get all that, and I appreciate it all. My I think point today is to see if you can at least communicate, and if the town manager is the go-to guy, communicate to him the issue at hand, that there is the probability that there could be massive failures in this neighborhood based on the useful life of the pump, and that if there is there an alternative that we could do to finance it over the period through the town, rather than everybody having to take these big expenses.
We could certainly write a letter to the town manager and to Mr. Joyce, the engineer of the town, and say that we received this, and this was an inquiry that came up at our meeting today, and what are your thoughts on that, and what do you think the possibility is of us having someone creating a program that would help us in the future?
That would be great. Just get the dialogue going.
That's, Phil and everybody is in favor of that, I would just make a motion to do it.
Go ahead, Brian. Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I was just having a conversation. I heard half of the story. Just in general, though, and the gentleman's from Linden Drive, I think, we're not just talking about Linden Drive neighborhood. It's really every house that is north of the town common all the way to Hull has a grinder pump. So, it's not just 30 houses times $5,000 or whatever. It's everybody north of the common. So just if you're looking for a magnitude of who owns grinder pumps, and really everyone owns their own grinder pump in that sense.
Yeah, includes the Lily Pond area. There's probably close to 340 pumps.
Right. Yeah, that's another additive.
Yeah, but you have 400 with Little Harbor, so you're looking at 500 or 600 to pick up North Cohasset, right?
Yeah, those are also E1.
Good, just on a meeting.
And the warranty that we actually extended, originally the warranty was 2 years from the manufacturer. We extended it to 5 years, just clarification.
But I thought there were 10 years for the new ones.
No, it went from 2 years to 5 years. We got them to give us a 5-year warranty on the pumps.
Well, and just another fact, you know, there's grinder pump manuals and it's on the website, and probably we should push it out again to the public on care and maintenance of the grinder pump. You know, if you take a shower after going to the beach and all that sand goes down in there, or flushing other things, you know, it does wear and tear on the unit more than you know, if it just has water and you know, wastewater going down there with no things that'll clog it up. So you know, coffee grounds are another thing that really deteriorate the stator on it, and so there's a lot of things in there that you know, folks who get 15, 20 years out of it probably take a little better care on what goes down the drain.
I mean, you could only be here 6 months of the year, but you know, when this guy came out and he took apart, he had this whole thing apart in the street, the motor and everything, and he said it was in the motor mechanism aspect of it rather than the mechanical grinding aspect of it. But it's you know, it's a complicated thing. It's just I don't think the residents were ever aware of this up and coming expense or the amortization of the pump life.
Well, a notice did go out to all the residents regarding the transfer of the pumps to the homeowner's use, and you know, ultimately it's up to the homeowner at that point in time to plan.
No, I get that. Nobody said $5,000. I mean, I figured a pump. How much can a pump cost? $1,000?
3,500.
Yeah, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should move on.
Yeah, the next item on the agenda is the rotary drum thickener proposal. So I think Scott's on.
Scott is on, yes. Get my video going here, sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
Rotary drum thickener is in. I'm not quite sure. I mean, do you just want an update on how it is? What's going on? What would you like to know about the rotary drum thickener?
Well, is it in meaning it's in, or it's in meaning it's installed and running?
It is installed. It's been running since the first week of August. Pretty much as advertised. We had the supplier come back about 2 weeks later after install to tweak a few things and show us a few different things about the nozzles and, you know, just to make some tweaks to it. But no, it's been in for almost 2 months now, and it's been working well.
So where do we stand against the budget for that? Are we over or under? Was there additional expenses?
I don't think. I think they were right on.
Okay,
they were right on. Yes, because Lisa, I think you asked me about sending out the bill last week or so, yes. And I think the numbers were right on. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I think maybe the other thing that you wanted to talk about was the grit screw, which we have a proposal for now.
Okay, so I apologize for the wording on the agenda. I originally had the grit screw, and then in a panic yesterday, I thought it was the rotary drum thickener I was supposed to put on. So I switched it.
Okay. Yeah, I thought the original was about the grit screw as well. Yeah.
See, how about an update on the grit screws, Scott?
I'm happy to tell you about the grit screw as well. So as Dan alluded to, yeah, so we have the proposal for it. Where, you know, I believe we have the quote from DNC for an install number as well. I don't know if Dan can comment on that or not. But I know the quote that I forwarded to you was just for the parts. There was no install. And I think that came in at I don't have it right in front of me. I apologize, but
what?
50,000,
100. What?
I think it was one, might have been 125, maybe.
125,000.
Correct.
With installation?
That is, I'm pulling it up right now, Wayne. I don't want to give you misinformation.
Thank you.
I'm sure it's not in here, but it could be.
Where the hell did it come from? DNC. Why can I not find it?
Okay, the entire cost was $63,858, and that included labor, equipment, and materials, which included the grit screw. So the total cost was just under $64,000.
64?
64.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's.
I believe you originally anticipated close to 100.
Okay.
Have we approved that yet to do it?
I thought that was in our
Yes.
capital budget.
It was, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, so really, we want to know when it's going to be done then.
So with the proposals here, I suspect it has some sort of delivery and install timeline.
Yes. The only thing is at the bottom of their quote, it says their quote expires on 9/21. Could have a price increase after that. So yeah, I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up a little bit late, but yeah, 63,858.
Well, there's a recession coming, so maybe the price will go down.
There you go. That's good. That's good thinking.
Well, we never had prices a year old. So.
Yeah, so if it's budgeted, the board could just vote to accept the quote and direct Wood and Curran to proceed with the purchase and installation of it.
Great. I second that.
So he has to get a revised quote since it expired on the 21st. And then we have to find out when they're going to, based on the quote being approved, when are they going to install?
I think we put it in at the price that's on the quote and let them, they can't honor it.
Come back with an adjustment?
Because are we talking just a year or are we talking a month?
No, we're talking days. It's just day. Today's what, the 27th? You're talking a week.
All right.
So I think you could be good too.
That'd be hard.
I agree.
And we didn't have a meeting to approve it if you needed approval for that, but we didn't need approval. I'll go through. So I may have Dan just repeat the wording and that's it. And then we can
we're going to make a motion to accept the proposal for the grit screw pump.
It's $63,858
and 30 cents.
And 30 cents. I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bill McGowan, aye. Paul Kears, aye.
Let the record show Bill McGowan put a thumbs up.
Okay.
Excellent.
And that also includes for the Wood and Curran to order it and get rolling on that.
Correct. Well,
just let us know.
DNC's already in our system, so that's a quick one to turn around.
Okay, so just let our next meeting is on the 11th. You could just give us an update as when it's going to be installed and what kind of effect that's going to have on the facility, what type of improvements that's going to have.
Absolutely.
Now, one more thing for Scott. I went by the site for the new condominiums in the waterfront, and that there's the sewer manhole is right inside the fence there, and there's no cover on it. And I'm not sure whether the line heading towards the harbor is still intact or whether or not that's been blocked up. And I would be I don't, if anything, like there was a broken collection pipe or something like that, that could have affected some of our flows to the treatment plant as well. So I'm wondering if you could go by and check it out and have them put something on top, even though it's inside a fenced area, and sort of and see what's there.
Absolutely. I just didn't hear. Is it on where the hotel was, or where the house was that they knocked down? Which manhole it was?
The hotel.
The hotel side. Okay. Yep. I will go down there as soon as we're done and figure that out. Absolutely.
You'll see. I can actually send you a picture or something. I took a picture. I think they have two connections to the hotel. I thought there was one there, and of course, I only say this because everything is dug out down below. The manhole sits about 4 feet above, and the water is about 5 feet down. I mean, if that flooded over and the pipe was open, it would absolutely take seawater and stuff, you know.
Especially with an incoming hurricane possible, it's we might want to. Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll go check that out as soon as we're done.
And on the other side, I don't know if the records or Dan has. On the monument side, where all the war heroes are mentioned and stuff, I thought there was a connection to the sewer on that side also that went across the street, and then the one that's there went down Elm Street. So I don't know what the status of that is, if there was one. And Dan, do you know if there's one?
Yeah, I don't recall one on that side, on the monument side. The only part was the outfall, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. So we'd want to see if they could locate that and protect it, basically.
Okay.
Okay.
The only other thing was the doors. I understand that was approved to move forward, and Scott's also processing that with the vendor for the barn doors.
Yes, I just have to get, he just has to forward his information to us. We'll get him in the system, and then we can sign a PO and get a PO issued to him.
Okay, you're already in touch with him?
I've reached out to him. Yes, I just haven't heard back.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Scott.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
So next up on the agenda is the Cook Estate update.
Do we have someone to speak?
So I think
we're going to promote them right now.
Yep. Tom was on. I don't see him on anymore, but
oh, he's there.
Okay.
And Steve was on. I don't see Steve anymore.
Oh, yeah, I see Tom on the attendee.
I don't know who Mike is. So Mike, could you please in the Q&A state what subject matter you're here for, and I'll promote you. Everybody should be promoted.
I'm sorry, Lisa, this is Tom Flannery. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, I thought Steve might be on. I don't know if we have Paul Davis. Is Paul Davis? Okay. So in terms of an update on Cook, really not much to report since our last meeting a couple of weeks back. Again, we're still waiting for the pump. I think we feel pretty good that it will be arriving the first week of November. There's been other small amount of ancillary work related to the piping that's been going on. And I think, we'll be ready to go once we take receipt of the pump. I think Paul said at the last meeting that work could be done on the generator, which is available. So that's where the construction element stands. In terms of the agreement, we're still waiting on the agreement from a couple of weeks ago. We have not received that yet. So I assume you folks are still looking at that. working on that. So once we receive that, we'll take a look at it as well and try to get back to you if we have any questions, comments, or concerns.
So yeah, we do. We have circulated a red line of the agreement with our attorney, Sharin. So I think Bill was reviewing some of those changes along with the other two of us. So we should be able to have some sort of response to you by Friday, I would think. Sharin, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
The other thing that we were waiting on from you, you had told us in our last meeting that the easement would be sent back and you would have a notary and have it executed. Has that been completed?
Yeah, that's been completed. I got an email yesterday that it was FedExed to the registry for filing.
Okay.
So I believe that that's all set. I also sent to Lisa a copy of the guarantee from Paul Davis related to workmanship related to the project for the guarantee period. So I hope Lisa has forwarded that to Sharin or to you guys.
Okay, Sharin, have you received the warranty yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Tom, I don't think I received it yet.
Yeah, I sent that a couple of weeks ago to you. I'm happy to send it again.
Okay.
Yeah, please do. So we'll have something fresh in your inbox. Lisa, would be the warranty for 12 months after the completion of the sewer line to the Dare Hill is what it should consist of. And then Sharin would need to take a look at that to see if that's equivalent to or better than having a bond in place. And I think those were the only things that we were waiting on.
Okay.
Looks like you could also use with their.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions on Cook? Okay, great. So Lisa, if you get that off to Sharin, do you think having it, do you think Friday is enough time, or would you need until next week on the agreement and the warranty?
Well, I can review the guarantee by Friday, but I would like to receive your comments on the sewer extension agreement.
Okay. Okay, so we'll have to make a point of getting that done between the three of us, and then okay. You can submit them. Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
So next up on the agenda is CJC. So I don't know if Mark is on to give us an update.
Yep, hang on, I'm getting them promoted right now.
Okay. And Mr. Morgan is on, I guess, yep.
And again, I don't know who Mike is, so.
Good morning. Just give you the folks an update for the work on Route 3A. The work is progressing. The contract is back on site. They're doing the temporary, actually permanent patch this week. They're expected to be complete with the permanent patch by Friday, and they'll come back at a later time after the required settlement period for MassDOT to do the final mill and overlay of the roadway, and then they'll restore the pavement markings associated with that project. For the on-site work, we're waiting for approval for the design plans that were submitted on August 9th.
So we did receive the opinion from our consultant, Dan Coughlin's group on that. And he has recommended that we do go ahead and approve those plans.
Good.
Based on his letter dated September 26th. So I'd like to make a motion to accept the recommendations from Coughlin Environmental Services in his letter dated September 26th to approve the design plans. Do I have a second?
Second.
The roll call vote. Bill McGowan. Wayne
Wayne,
Sawchuk. Go ahead, Wayne.
Wayne Sawchuk, yes.
Paul Kears, aye. So it's unanimous. The plans are now approved.
Oh, good. Thank you.
We did make 3 comments on there, just kind of recommendations moving forward. One was just to specify the check valves for the pump stations, something that would be suitable for solids handling. The other one was basically, we would like to get a copy of a digital copy of the O&M manual for the flow meter, just so any inspector from the town is familiar with that unit. And the final thing was on the hatches for the pump stations. If they do have channel drains, we do typically recommend that those are piped outside the pump station so as not to add extraneous water into the system. But those aren't something that we need a response back or plan revision. They were just recommendations moving forward, and that's in our recommended approval letter.
Okay. If I may suggest that we similar to what we did on the Route 3A, will forward submittals, daily reports, photographs, and so forth as a turnover package or a request for review and acceptance of the work. If that's okay, shop drawings will be included of the different features, including the flow meters and check valves and pumps.
That's very
okay.
Seems to be acceptable, sure.
Are you going to be doing that once for everything or on an individual basis for each building?
It would depend on Mr. Statsco and how he wants to turn on the system. If one pump, maybe 390 may come online first before 380 in building 400. But we can do interim, or we can do a full package review or request for review at based on Mr. Statsco's schedule.
Yeah, obviously the way the work's been transpiring, you're concentrating on 390 in terms of getting that work tested and approved. We still have pump station startup to go through completely for that line, but I think that's the only remaining element on that 390 service from the sewer commission's perspective. But obviously there may be additional sign-offs that are needed from the town. Both John and Pam are here too. They can speak to that if they want.
Yeah, we've been operating kind of in silos on each individual property, focused on 390. So I'd prefer to focus on each building as it's going through its completion, rather than waiting for one collective. It just may just bog everything down, waiting for everything to go.
Yep, I understand.
Building to building. So really, it's up to John how you want to handle this. If you're satisfied with building to building.
Well, I guess we do have some questions, because although they're individual buildings and it's there, a lot of the plans submitted to the planning board or the zoning board were for the whole facility. So it again, they're individual, but the work involved in the site plan is for the whole site. So I guess maybe a timeline on when the other 2 buildings will be hooked up to complete the work around there, to access around the building, the parking spaces associated with that, the entrance to the decommissioning of the septic plant, just so we can kind of have some idea. I don't know whether it's waiting for parts or what the status is. So that's what we'd be interested in hearing.
So Mark, can you give us an update on that, the overall project, and where you stand for each individual building?
Well, from my understanding, and Mr. Statsco and George Morgan can interject if they like, building 390 will come online first. And they're waiting for some other pieces and pumps for the other buildings, 380 and 400. I don't have an exact schedule for those two buildings. But I would assume they're coming, they'll be a few weeks away to a month or so before they come online. But I think the focus is on 390, so folks, that building can be occupied. And we can give the town a package for that individual building, certainly. And then we can figure out for turn on and pump operation and startup. We can figure out a time that we all can meet out in the field and do a startup and review for that building.
I know you still have one final test to do on the pump system, and then water has to be tested in the building to be able to flow down into sewer.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where you stand right now?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
And then the other question I have for the water to leave the property to go into the Route 3A sanitary system, the gravity line system. We provided a package to the commission a few weeks ago, I believe, and just we called it an interim submittal package where included all the daily reports to date, photographs, submittals, shop drawings, testing, compaction testing, mandrel testing, CCTV, etc. For a review from the commission, and just waiting feedback if that line was accepted by the sewer commission.
Yeah, just a quick question. You said interim. So what else were you planning on submitting?
Well, at the end, we have to close out at the final package. We have to close out the Conservation Commission, the notice of intent, and they will also have to close out the permit with MassDOT.
Okay.
But from the point of the sewer commission, that package is complete for the sewer pipe proper.
Yeah.
But there might be, the castings are being raised to grade with concrete collars as required by MassDOT. I don't anticipate the castings or manholes or any work inside the manhole after this week. It's truly after this week would be just mill and fill, overlay and pavement restoration.
Yeah. I also sent a second letter to the commission. Basically, we did review that package. We looked at the videos. Quality of the videos was a little lacking in some instances, but generally it was enough to confirm the integrity of the pipeline. So it was our recommendation to accept that package.
Good.
The only conditions, or there were a couple items that were in there, is there were some CAD plans for Brian Joyce. I wanted Brian to review those, make sure they're in a suitable format for him. All the information he's looking for archiving these in a digital format. You know, if he can just take a peek at that at some point in time, and you know, let us know if that's adequate.
So I guess at the conclusion of your recommendations, Dan, is they still need to successfully test the pump station startup and demonstrate that the controls, alarms, and flow elements are all operational.
Right. And
so once that's conducted this week, then we should be able to have that approved by the sewer commission, and then whatever the next steps are for the town, the Board of Health, or the building inspector to move to the next process that's on his list.
Yeah, there are some additional criteria in the agreement itself, the sewer connection agreement, that have to be satisfied as well. Obviously, all the monetary transfers, the reimbursements. There was an O&M manual requirement, which really should be a simple, you know, couple of page type of thing. But just recommendations from the design engineer as far as operation and maintenance for the system. And obviously, there's a 1-year guarantee that we need in writing. And there was also a requirement for a $25,000 emergency repair bond.
So that all of that, Dan, kicks in when a good portion of that kicks in when he's approved for full sewer to flow down to Tupelo and begin running sewer through the pipe.
Yeah, and that's really what he's trying to obtain for 390. So
we'd have to understand that from John Halloran when that would occur for those aspects of the contract to kick in. So I don't know that turning the sewer on for him to test every apartment and all the water and all the sewer in the building constitutes you know, approval for full sewer to go to Tupelo on a regular basis, on a daily basis. I think we'd have to hear from John Halloran on that.
I think that we want to have that done as just a test procedure. I mean, that's not because it's going to give us an idea as if there's any problems before you go ahead and say just use it and have a larger flow. So
Right.
So John, where do you stand on that opinion?
I think they can certainly test it prior to occupancy. You know, again, if they wish to, but they're kind of two separate things. I think to Wayne's point, I think it might be prudent to test the line ahead of time just to make sure it flows right. Everything's working, calculations are in prior to issuing occupancy. That would be one of the steps we need anyway.
So we could possibly do that this week, Mark, if your tests on that system pass.
Mr. Morgan, maybe he can answer that question.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Mark?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so Williamson Pump is presently outside making sure that the pump controls are in full operational. There was a little bit of a snag which they had to come back and rectify. And as soon as I get a green light from Williamson Pump, I will reschedule the formal startup with Dan. So I'll give him the proper notice and then we can do that, but it'll basically be based on a closed system. So the water can go out to the pump station outside of the out on the green space out on which is its first stop when that's done, or we can go and let it go down to the manhole number 10, we call it, which is the last gravity manhole before it goes to sewer, which is plugged. And we could just take the fresh water that we use and, you know, and pump it out. So that's the plan we have.
Okay. So Dan, does that fit into your schedule this week of potentially going down to view?
Yeah, I've been dealing with George, and he'll call me when they're ready, and we'll send someone down.
Okay.
I think what Mark's original question in his recent email was basically when could they activate the system?
Yeah.
And from my perspective, you have the agreement items that still are pending and have to be satisfied, and obviously you have the other requirements, which are either from the Board of Health on the decommissioning of tanks, or from John relative to the occupancy permit. So all these things have to happen first.
Could I interject for 1 minute?
Sure.
Dan, so on the 390 building, we do not have any existing tanks that are physically part of that system.
That's correct.
So 400 and 380 definitely do. And I'm working on that right now to get certification and the proper cleaning and what have you for that, for the board. And then I believe Cease Burrito has already sent in an application for the decommissioning of the tanks. And then when it comes time for the cleaning of basically the cleaning of the 3 grease traps and certification of those being integrally fine. That's another Board of Health issue.
Right.
I don't think we have any Board of Health issues on 390.
Right, Pam. Yeah, Pam, do you want to speak to any of that? Are you satisfied with where we are on it?
Yeah, that's true. I've had 2 different contractors reach out to me to do the decommissioning on the 380 and the 400 so far.
Okay. And you're and there's nothing that you need to view or document or approve for 390?
I think I do have to sign off on the building permit for 390. But a few weeks ago, you did ask that the project provide a timeline, and I still think that's really a good idea. It would be really good to see when the proposed connections are, and then what's holding them back at this point. What are they waiting for when the proposed dates are?
I can answer that for you, Pam. both the 380 and the 390 structures and piping are in the ground and to their respective destinations. However, due to supply chain issues, we are expecting the pumps 6 weeks for both those control stations. So that is our immediate timeline on those. As far as 390 is concerned, we're looking to get it running immediately. So we can test our plumbing inside and adjust the water temperatures, what have you, for ultimately getting a CO.
So you're looking at mid-November for the controls to come in for 400 and 380?
Well, we're hoping,
okay.
You know, they say 4 to 6 weeks. So based on historical events, 4 weeks would be mid-October, and 6 weeks would be November 1st.
Okay.
So where he's looking for immediate connection, or trying to get an immediate connection, or as soon as possible connection for 390. That's why he said those other agreement provisions really need to be in place as well.
Okay. Yeah, we can take a look at it and have Sharon give us an opinion on what has to be implemented and what waits for the full property to be connected.
Paul, if you could CC me and Donald on what those items you're looking for are, just to be, so we're both on the same sheet of music.
Okay. Is there any other comments on CJC?
I just have one question, just to close the loop on the design of for the on-site work. Would we be seeing a letter from the commission summarizing the approval of the design plans for the on-site work?
I think just our vote approving them today should be sufficient.
Okay.
Mike, I can send you copies of the 2 letters then.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll send them to you, to George and Don.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, if nothing else, so we're going to move on to 808.
Paul?
Yes, sir.
Just briefly, Jeff DeLisi, I just want to confirm what our goal is to move forward from the standpoint of sewer and close it out for 390 so that we could address any other straggling items regarding occupancy. So with respect to 390, I just want to make sure I'm on the same page here and understood it correctly. It appears as if we're going to finish our testing this week, and we believe we should be in a position where we could probably activate the system. But I believe I heard from Dan that there are a few recommendations of a few items that apply to the larger property. Dan, do you want those items with respect to 390 and then again with respect to the remaining property in the future? Or I'm trying to understand exactly where we need to be in order to activate the line for 390.
Again, we had a couple of recommendations in the letter. It doesn't need a plan revision at all on the plan set. We just need a response back, and I'll send the letter to everyone, and Mike can respond on how it's being planned to be addressed. But in terms of actual discharge, in other words, the activation of the system, I believe the agreement is pretty clear, and there are certain things that need to be in place prior to discharge in terms of gaining sewer commission approval to activate the line. So those are the items that per the agreement we're looking to have satisfied.
Didn't we already vote to have the line activated pending your approval? Like, I thought that's what occurred about a month ago.
We did. There were 3 tests that had to be performed.
Yeah.
We're still waiting on one final test to be performed, and then the line can be activated. Now, so activating the line in order to test 390 to ensure that it satisfies the building inspector's needs for plumbing requirements is where we're at now. Building occupancy and what those requirements are up to John Halloran. It's we can approve the sewer connection, that the building is sound for sewer connection to Tupelo, but that doesn't, we have nothing to do with the occupancy side of it. So that's John Halloran.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I just want to make sure that we don't have to come back before the commission for another vote, that this is really us working with Dan to satisfy the straggling concerns that Dan has with respect to 390, because our goal is not to wait to occupy 390 until November. Our goal is to put ourselves in a position, hopefully, where we could apply for occupancy of the residential units at 390 prior to November. And so I just want to make sure that we're dealing with this in silos, as you said, Paul, which
Correct.
is 390 now, 380, 400 as soon as we get the pumps and so forth that are on order. I'm trying to streamline this process. Every 2 weeks we meet, we give updates, we have votes, but we should be able to be in a position, I think, to not have to come back before the commission in order to activate 390. It should just be in the hands of Dan.
That's correct. We've already voted on that, right? So this is the final test to be done.
Yep.
Dan will have his team down there to inspect the site. Once that's approved and sewer is sound, then you move on to the building inspector and meet his requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, again, my recommendation letter was, you know, it was pretty simple in terms of what needed to be done. If you were dealing with this on an individual building basis.
I hit the
So,
water line.
Of course you did.
Yeah, you can certainly test
Yep.
390 without having to activate the line. As far as activation of the line, I was again referring back to the original agreement, and just to make sure that those are in place. If those things are in place and the testing goes well on 390, then, you know, short of getting an occupancy certificate, you should be all set.
So to the extent that I misunderstood that, I apologize. I just wanted to be clear on it. Thank you.
Okay. We're going to move on to 808 Jerusalem Road. Lisa, do we have anyone attending for that property?
I don't see anybody. So basically what this was on the agenda for is that that's the old antique shop that burned down. And it's now, I believe, town-owned property that the Habitat for Humanity is going to build a duplex on. And they had a previous sewer connection on that property. And so they were asking like what it would cost to connect to sewer, connect the affordable housing that they're providing, what it would cost to connect to sewer. And they were asking for a discount, but I think that I believe that they were already connected, but they weren't connected out to the street. They were connected to the driveway of another property.
Okay.
No, actually, so,
so what we'll need to do is we'll need to figure out what the connection was on the existing property, how many EDUs were approved for that property, and then I saw this plans that they submitted, which is to find out what they need in additional to what's already there before we can assess what the cost is.
I have that information if you want, Paul.
Okay.
So the gravity connection for this property basically went up the driveway off of Hull Street, and it still should be there. And it still should be suitable for connection unless it was damaged during construction or plugged during the fire for some reason. But that service is there and it should be active. In terms of the EDUs, this property was originally signed a single EDU. Currently, they are proposing 2 3-bedroom units. So in terms of that, it would be 1.5 EDUs. So if you're looking at this in terms of a housing benefit, you know, you would be looking at maybe granting a waiver for the half of EDU, which is the property is increasing.
Yeah, so we'd have to see what's the cost of a half of EDU. I don't know that's
It's $18,750.
We've been giving credits for people that are using to try to get some more affordable housing. So I don't want to be in a position, I'd rather approve that half of EDU than to go ahead and start saying we're going to give money back because we did this to someone else and stuff like that. So my belief is the only expense that they will have is the connection by a licensed sewer provider from the existing connection to the building. Now they have to see whether or not the connection is low enough, new building, which may be lower than the old building was. So got to do a calculation of what the first floor, I'm assuming they're going to have some crawl space or a basement, probably a crawl space because of the ledge.
So, yeah, I know Habitat is a 100% nonprofit organization, so that they go in front of a lot of towns looking for some sort of discount or waiver. So I'd like to see something in writing, kind of detailing what it is, and then if they have to take a look at the site to confirm if there's any additional things that have to be done. I don't know, unless, do we know exactly that it's going to be 1.5 EDUs and there's no need to get anything in writing, or do you want to wait?
I just could waive the half the EDU, say that they to connect to sewer at their expense, in the construction expense, and in a way that works for them. I mean, they need a pump to raise it up a little bit.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion to
waive the half of EDU for this project, and just to remind them that they have to get the sewer from the building to the sewer pipe.
Correct.
How
at their expense. Yeah.
Lisa, is there an official application before the board at this point?
Excuse me?
Is there an official application before the board at this point? Or were they just?
No, we don't have an application yet.
Yeah, so I mean, you just may want to wait for your vote until you receive a formal application, which documents exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we really don't have anything in writing from them. We've seen the plans, and that's it. So some sort of application or official request, we can waive the application fee as well. I mean, we just got, based on this nonprofit coming into town to build this home, is all we know so far. We don't have a timeline. I know they're a year or two away, I suspect, from doing it. So
yeah,
and maybe they can come in front of the board and show us what they want to do and request whatever waivers they want to request.
Well, I don't know if they're going to request any waivers at all. I think, like Dan said, we're going to expect, we're going to waive any additional fee above the 1 EDU, okay, in my opinion, and that they'll have to come in with a plan of how they're going to connect to the sewer, and that plan and the expense of doing it is shoulders, right? Because this plan doesn't tell me any grades or anything, it doesn't say, invert of the sewer connection is this. And they might have to go in the ground and find it and then verify it, and then look at their house plans and say, okay, this is how, the engineer is going to say, this is going to be how the sewer connection is going to work. Right?
Right. Yeah, we just wait for a formal application, but I mean, Lisa can certainly convey that the board is receptive to entertaining those discounts or whatever.
I know it.
Yeah, I'd rather get something in writing from them, whether it's an email or an official application, something that says, hey, we're looking to put this in, and they're expecting right now their expected expense is $18,750, and once they put in an application, we can vote to waive that expense.
Right.
Okay, so that motion that was put on the table is void.
Correct.
Okay. Very good.
So,
I'll reach them, send them the application, and invite them to the next sewer meeting. I did invite them to this one, but.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I know it takes a long time for them to move on property than a private developer. So whenever they're ready, we're ready.
Okay.
Next up on the agenda is 1 Pleasant Street EDU. Discussion I believe that's Jeff.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. Still working on the documents, don't have anything to report. I pretty much know what the range of the likely seats are going to be in the restaurant. It's going to be a smaller restaurant.
Okay.
But I'm reticent to give you that number until I know with a little bit more definitiveness.
Okay, yeah, well, last we spoke, you were going to get building plans to us and calculate the square footage and the restaurant part. We wanted to confirm that you had stated that the first floor would be equivalent to what the first floor has already been approved for in the past. So we just need to confirm that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the restaurant space will probably be a little larger than the prior space, but the Title V requirements are seats, not space. So
okay. So do you think you'll have something by the 11th?
Possibly. Yeah, I think it's reasonable to kick it over to the 11th, and then we can have a more fruitful discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
If not, our next tentative meeting would probably be the 25th.
Okay.
Just,
all right.
I just want to mention that property was originally a 2 EDUs, and under the current format, that's equivalent to 8 bedrooms. So that would be 880 gallons per day. It was originally approved for.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Yep.
Next on the agenda are the abatements. Right now it's 28 Bow Street is requesting an abatement. And
Brenda Douglas, the office manager at the water department that does all our billing, she actually put this in on behalf of the owner of the property, because they had actually installed an irrigation meter, but for some reason the readings didn't take into account of that. So they didn't, it's a deductible irrigation meter installed by the plumber. Owner was unaware that the water department data of the meter to find out what usage was on that date. So Brenda put in for this for 6,700 cubic feet because it wasn't on the sewer. It wasn't going into the sewer. It's actually going into irrigation. That was her on the new meter.
so, yeah, when did they put in this meter? Because what's highlighted on the bill goes back to 2020, 58507, and then in 2021, 86934, and then in June of this year, 817.04. So what is the amount they're requesting? And the question is, when was this put in? If this recently?
Let's see. It looks like possibly June 30th. Well, June 30th, it was read.
So the abatement period they're requesting is April 1st to June 30th, which would only be the $817.04.
Yeah.
Right.
I did notice that too, that their bills were high on other quarters.
So Wayne, did you have any comments on this?
I can't see how much, I can't see the amount that they're looking to have rebated.
Oh, the dollar amount would be $700.82.
And how is that calculated?
So it's based on the 6,700 cubic feet of usage. So 67 times the $10.46 charge, sewer use charge, equals $700.82.
Yeah, I guess I'm just looking at, this is just the water bill we're looking at then.
Well, it says water and sewer, but
yeah.
Well, the sewer is based on the water usage.
Right.
Right. So this is showing water was 74, sewer was 7,400 for the first line, right? For the 630.22. So, and then it says water bill and sewer bill. And you're saying that the sewer bill should have been less because they're paying for all the water that's going through the meter, but they discovered that that was wrong.
It looks like based on the one of the attachments, the miscellaneous activity, if you go to the bottom, it looks like they got FR Mahoney was involved at 3544. So I'm wondering if on 2/11/2020, I wonder if that's when the meter was installed. Oh no, wait. And on how to get an irrigation.
Well, there.
It looked like it was installed on August of 2021.
Right, they're only requesting an abatement for the period of April 1st to June 30th.
Yeah.
Abatement requested was 6,700 cubic feet.
But are they paying for the 7,400 cubic feet of water?
Yes, because it's water that they used for the irrigation.
And it's just saying that the deduct didn't work. So
just looking for 782 off the bill.
For sewer.
For sewer.
Which would be $100 basically less than the $817, right?
Right.
But they're still paying the full water amount because they did use that water. It just it didn't go into the sewer.
But we don't know how much sewer they did use.
I think that 6,700 is based on the meter reading from the irrigation meter.
Of read on 630 as 0067. About 6,700 from 8/1/22 bill. I don't have a problem with it, but because I think part of town's responsibility, I think that's what Brenda took, is doing it. And I don't want to go against something that's already gone through there. So I would make a motion to accept the sewer abatement in the amount of the
782. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So I second the motion.
All those in favor? Aye.
Paul Kears, aye. Bill McGowan, aye.
And Wayne Sutch.
Okay, so that's approved.
Yes.
And so what's next on the agenda is other business topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. Bill, do you have anything? No. Wayne?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
I do have one thing. There was a public announcement, I guess. Lauren Lind was part of a grant recipient for the town of Cohasset to review surge of tidal wave, I guess, in the harbor and how that would have an effect on the harbor. And also included in that was the wastewater treatment plant. So I don't know what the next steps are and who gets involved in reviewing all of that, if it's an independent study by an independent firm or where it is. So I don't know, Lisa, if we can have Lauren send out a letter to the board kind of explaining what it is and if there's any involvement by the sewer commission.
Yes, okay. Yes, I'll ask her.
Yes, it was a sizable grant for that. So it was specific. It specifically included the sewer facility. So
I think it's very important. Sometime when I was a kid, the downtown would flood out when somebody would leave the gates at the harbor open. Now we have mechanical gates and that won't happen, but we certainly can have a situation where we can overflow the top of those walls and have the water going down Elm Street and through the marsh and stuff. And at what elevation are we going to have to shut the plant down? And or we be putting some sort of a 2-foot barricade around it or something like that to handle, the rising tide, because it would be a disaster to have the salt water get into everything and ruin it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they had kind of done a study on this, I think 6 months or a year ago. I know the Harbor Committee's been spearheading a lot of things. So I just want to make sure that we're part of the any of the meetings or open forums that they're going to have, that we're allowed to. Brian, I see you're on.
Yeah, so I've been in the loop on this, and I'll also talk with Linda or Lisa.
Yep.
About
one of the L's.
Yeah. But I just wanted to mention, because Wayne had mentioned the tide gate. So the tide gate, we're having also supply chain issues on fixing that. So it's been not functioning the way it should be all summer long, which has prevented salt water coming into the meadow. And by happenstance, it's the lowest I&I we've had at the plant, by flow in years. So it's kind of a smoking gun that sewer line and the manholes going through the marsh from 87 Elm to the plant is leaking. So I just wanted to put it on the radar of, with town meeting coming up, or the planning for town meeting coming up, maybe doing an in situ form or a lining of that seems to make a lot of sense.
Yeah,
and then part of that study, I'll make sure that we'll get Lauren on the agenda and we can talk about it.
Okay.
And I think one of our asks, waterproofing more of the manhole covers on Elm Street and other areas. So if the water's coming, we're not going to have flows going in.
Right.
Terrific. Is there any other business? I'd like to say welcome, Carol. You've made it to your first public meeting with us. So we'll see you on the 11th. I don't know if you're going to be running solo, but
oh no, not yet.
We're here to help you. We're here to help you from a distance.
Thank you.
Great. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second. Yes.
Paul Kears, aye.
Wayne Sawchuk, aye.
Bill McGowan, aye. Got it. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.